Over the years of practicing gesture drawing, I've noticed 5 mistakes that kept showing up in my studies and that really held me back, making my progress much slower. And I keep seeing them even in other students' work. So today I'm going to address these 5 mistakes, hoping to help you progress way faster than I did. Mistake number 1, obsessing over the time limit. The first time I realized that gesture drawings are supposed to be timed, I started to set crazy time limits for myself, when in reality, I wasn't ready at all. 1 minute, 30 seconds, even 10 seconds. At that time, I was still getting used to this new concept of gesture. I was still wrapping my head around it. And the time limit only made things more difficult, of course. Because it put way too much pressure on me, and it made me scramble just to have an entire human figure down on paper in a few seconds. So if you're just starting out with gesture, my personal advice is just to forget about the timer. Take your time, analyze your reference, and even follow step by step an instructor. Little by little you will start to understand what you're trying to do with this gesture thing, and at that point, only at that point, you can start to set time limits to really improve. But even then, don't stress too much about them. Time limits are not deadlines, they are just indications. They are just really meant to help you simplify the figure, use as few lines as possible, and make you iterate faster. And if you don't have an entire human figure down on paper in those few seconds, who cares? The second mistake is something nobody really talks about, in my opinion. And it is the obsession over charcoal or any other specific tool. You see, at the very beginning I felt forced to use charcoal just because my favorite artist used it for his gestures. But it definitely was too early for me, because charcoal is very tricky to use and I didn't have an art school background. As a result of this, I felt even less at ease at doing gesture, less confident, constantly overthinking, just because of that tool I had in my hand. So my suggestion is, just use whatever you want. Please. I soon realized that I was way more comfortable using just a simple red and blue pencil on cheap copy paper. As a result of this, I immediately felt more comfortable, I sit down more often to do gestures, and I improved way faster. And with time and practice, I found my sweet spot. Now, for example, I use this mechanical pencil, which has become my favorite art tool, and this kind of bar of graphite. If you know what it is and what it's called, let me know in the comments, by the way. The third mistake is another stupid constraint that I set for myself. Starting my gestures always, and I mean always, from the head. I mean, it's not wrong, it has some advantages for sure. For example, you will nail the proportion way easier. But it's not always the best starting point. For some poses, it just felt weird, especially for those that were facing away from me. So I started asking myself, what if I start from the torso and have all the limbs and the head kind of irradiate from there? The torso is the main mass of the body after all. So I started to experiment with this new workflow and wow, it felt so much better. Now I alternate, sometimes I start with the head, sometimes with the torso. So my suggestion is, don't feel like you have to start from one place. Just start and decide the best starting point on a pose by pose basis. The fourth one is a mistake that I see very often and that I still make sometimes. Stiffening up the reference. Let me paint a picture for you. Me finding a super cool reference and thinking, wow, I wanna draw that. So I immediately start doing the gesture of it. But the result is stiff, nowhere near the original. Has it ever happened to you? Well, this is super normal. This is in fact one of the most difficult aspects of gesture drawing and figure drawing in general. I am so guilty of this, but the solution is simple and we already talked about it. Exaggerate. Go so far that you will break your pose. Chances are that you will probably not, and you will end up with an appealing and dynamic result. Something that captures the essence of your reference. And this is a piece of advice that comes from Walt Disney himself. The fifth mistake is something that I had no clue about at the beginning, not paying attention to the balance of my pose. So how to determine it? Draw a straight line from the pit of the neck to the ground, and if it falls near the supporting foot, the figure is balanced. If not, well, it is unbalanced. Very simple. Of course, you don't need to do it for poses that are in the air. Balance is an important part of the story of the pose, and it will be essential when you will have to exaggerate your pose. One of the best ways to exaggerate is to create instability in your figures. Not only that, because being aware of the balance in your figures will make your poses more believable and grounded. Okay, I want to leave you with one last little secret. The title was a clickbait, because I'm actually very happy of having made these mistakes. Maybe recognizing them sooner wouldn't have hurt, but mistakes are one of the best ways to actually improve. As of one of my animation teachers used to say, fail often and fail quickly. And with this, I will leave you the link to join my free art community, specifically centered around gesture and figure drawing, down in the description. And I will see you on my next step.